welcome back to the Sensible SENCO. So this is the first of 2 videos to replace the content I skipped over in the EduKey webinar series. At least I don't have to panic about sticking to 15 minutes now. This part is about online learning and the second part will be about mental health, wellbeing, bereavement and behaviour. I was going to struggle with 15 minutes anyway. So let's talk about online learning and assistive technology. And there's a need, first of all, to define the different types of online learning, since whenever we say it at the moment, there's this automatic assumption that we mean virtual teaching or live conferencing. The first type is providing a website or an app for a child to access, so a programme such as Maths Factor, Carol's Site, TT Rockstars, Nessie, Emmy or Kaz Type. These programmes provide feedback and teachers might have admin access to them, where they can see the progress and perhaps even send a message to the children. But generally there isn't any teacher-student contact. Usually the child needs to complete something or get to a certain stage before the parent or the teacher gets any feedback at all, and it's not what we would call live feedback. The second type is providing content for a lesson via what is effectively a messaging service. So EduKey's Class Charts does this, Show My Homework, so I have to say it because everybody knows it, emails, school texts, messages, that kind of thing. It isn't online learning as such, but the resources might be provided or uploaded and the children might upload their answers. Or it could be something as simple as an instruction that says draw a tree. There might be student, parent, teacher messaging, but nothing in the terms of live delivery, and the exchanges are recorded so they can be monitored by admin holders. So I can't send a child a dodgy message because somebody else might actually see it. Not that I would send a child a dodgy message. It is delayed feedback though, so just like when a child hands in homework and they have to wait till the following day when the teacher's marked it to find out what they're getting, this is the same kind of thing. The third way is providing a virtual classroom with pre-recorded content. So that's similar to watching the TV, videos, YouTube, the Oak National Academy. So Oak National falls under this category because there's no direct interaction with the student. There isn't really the opportunity for teachers to monitor or use and provide support or input or check on how well their students are able to access it. A slight twist on this is those online CPD courses, which I bet we've all done recently. You get to attend it and you work your way through and you get a progress bar and you have to achieve 70% accuracy to move into the next bit. But not many of us have got time to sit and program something like that at the moment. Some schools are being a bit more creative and they're using Google Forms and the Microsoft equivalent or SurveyMonkey and Kahoot to give them some idea of how their students are doing. And then the fourth way of working is live conferencing. So this is synchronous teaching. The children are in the room at the same time as we are. And this is the only option that actually allows us live feedback and monitoring. But it's also the one that's fraught with the most concerns. We're allowed in a classroom on a daily basis with the door shut, but apparently we can't be in an online classroom with a group of students. I will get my head around that at some point. Just the same way as in a school we could have somebody on a learning walk that pops their head into the classroom and checks how things are going, a senior leader could do just the same thing in a live conferencing, but let's just leave that to one side. Small notice there, when a Year 3 child decides to take the device with them to the toilet, please remember to turn the webcams off on everybody's screen. Only this option actually allows us to give live feedback immediately to students. And it's not ideal, but it's the best of them out there at the moment. And whilst programmes might tell students whether or not they've done something right or wrong, so I can get some feedback in Excel or in Doodle Maths or something that says, yes, you got this right, or no, you got it wrong, and here's what you should have done, it doesn't tailor it to that student. It's coming from a bank that's already been written and he goes, oh, they got that wrong, give them this piece of feedback. But it's not actually tailored to why the child made that mistake or anything like that. So there's a lot to be said though for providing children with the opportunity to actually be in a virtual classroom and hear familiar adult voices and those of their peers, regardless of whether they're SEN students or not. And whilst all of the methods, those ways of teaching, have their relative merits, they can be incredibly difficult to ensure they're adjusted for our SEN students. I was quite happily exploring my son's Doodle Maths account and playing the games for him, only to discover that when he went on it the following day, it had reset the level, meaning that the questions were a bit too difficult for him. Let's face it, it happens, and I can bet it's happening across the country at the moment. Some apps and programmes, we choose the level that the children start on or they should be working at. Others, we rely on them to select an appropriate button or whatever game it is they're supposed to be playing. And we might be very used to using this kind of thing, certainly as SENCOs perhaps, as apps to provide interventions or provisions or support for children, but we're not very used to relying on them for our whole content and curriculum delivery. So, assuming that we are delivering some form of online teaching, then we have different categories of learners, as would be expected. And I bet that you would be able to name a child for every one of my scenarios I'm about to pose. First, we need to remember though that children need safe working conditions for using computer screens. We can't expect children to spend hours and hours in front of a computer screen or whatever device they're using, and then assume that they won't just turn the channel over and watch Netflix or TikTok or whatever it is and give themselves a break from doing that, or even playing Fortnite. They're not likely to do that when we say take a break. They're going to turn over to one of those things instead, which is not taking a break from the screen. And the same applies to staff. Office employees are only supposed to work for 2 hours before taking a 15-minute eye break, if you like. And we can't check that that's happening, but parents perhaps need to take a bit of responsibility there and be made aware that the equipment should be set at the right height for children, that they should be sat correctly, and make sure that they don't have the laptop on their knee burning it, says she who has burns on her knees from the times that she has done it. For our first group of students, we have found their way of working. We've unlocked it. It works for them, they love it, they're engaging with it, they're experiencing success. Yes! And if this applies to our SEN students, we need to make sure that this is something that is built in to their programme when we return to normality. We've found the key to unlock their learning potential. Our second group of students hate it and won't access it. And this group reminds me of the questions that were on Facebook. So how can I engage, dare I say it, boys, where I'm battling for their attention with Fortnite and the PS4? Now in the classroom we face a similar battle on a daily basis, but we can exercise a bit more control on pulling back the focus. With virtual teaching methods we still have an element of control, whereas other suggestions like sending them off to go and play Maths Focus or TT Rockstars or whatever are very uncontrolled. We don't have control over that at all. It's parents that have to do that. It kind of relies on us finding their hook. That's nothing new, we know that, and using the context of what we're working with. Getting the parents on side, suggesting that there is a routine involved, and making sure that there are rewards but not sanctions. As families, we have got so much going on at the moment, and if playing Fortnite for an hour rather than actually answering questions on fronted adverbials lets the parent get on with their work so they can keep money coming in, then we can't really argue with that. I always remember when I first started teaching and I had a young man called Callum in my class, and he'd be in his mid-30s now, which is a scary thought. He would not do maths at all unless it was presented in the form of JCB diggers and tractors. This was his hook. I'm not saying that we need to redesign our online delivery of fractions to fit the niche content of Fortnite, Hello Kitty and Batman for every session, but if the opportunity presents itself, we need to make the most of it. We can reward students who complete their work, but be really wary of whole school processors that issue sanctions. It's not just our SEN pupils that may be struggling with the content and unable to access their usual support, and the environments for many of our students are not conducive to home learning as well. It's just not fair. Again, I'm going to return to my 9-year-old who I've kicked out of the room and off the tablet so that I can film the video without interruption. We're asking a lot of parents and pupils at the moment to do things, and we shouldn't give them punitive measures when they're unable to complete that work. Our third group of students is different to the have it, won't access it group. They have it and they'd dearly love to participate, but they're unable to do so because it's not pitched at their level or it's simply inaccessible. So they have it, but they can't access it. And as a parent, again, this is the angle I come from. My 9-year-old is a visually impaired child, and there is the assumption that he can access everything as he doesn't need anything at school. And this would be true of printed materials. But online, he's working on a 9-inch tablet screen and a variety of links that don't always allow for enlarging. I don't think this is any different to the groups we find in school when we're teaching. They have access to our classroom lessons, but they can't always access them. And it's our duty as teachers to ensure that reasonable adjustments and measures are put in place so that all children can access those lessons. Please note, I did say teachers and not just SENCOs. I'll come back to assistive technology in a moment. Finally, we have a fourth group, those that don't have access to online learning. And there was a direct question on social media to answer here too. How can I help a primary age child with no internet access, no English and poor housing? I don't have the magic solution to that. A community plea for old devices has been successful in one area, whereas another head teacher tells of contacting 19 big name companies who all flat out refused to support a request for 8 tablets. And yet on Twitter earlier today, I saw somebody who was posting that they had got 50 Microsoft Surface tablets to give away to educators. So it's just finding the right place at the right time, I suppose. Government grants have been promised to ensure access for certain groups of students, although those in Year 10 seem to get more of a priority look in than those at primary, possibly because of a presumption that they have less time to catch up. I'm afraid I don't have an answer, I really don't, and I wish I did. There are relatively few households in the UK without access to a TV. And there is a series of programmes available for them to watch. But it is known that some families might not have a TV licence, so be aware of that if you're recommending that they watch those BBC programmes that have been put out. And I suggest that there needs to be a skills audit when children return to school, probably not in the first week. Because I've watched my own son's dire mouse skills and know that I don't have a spare PC lying around for him, hence he's using the tablet, and he will be behind his peers who have adapted to that way of working. We know that there is going to be a gap in reading, writing, maths, social abilities, but actually I feel there's possibly going to be a gap in technological skills as well for some of our children when we return. So then we get on to assistive technology, and this is where we can really work towards using some of those features that we don't always have time to explore properly. We kind of look at them and go, oh yeah, we'll give that child a laptop, and then realise they can't use it because we actually haven't had time to give them the chance to use it and teach them to use it. Not many teachers have access to every possible type of device and operating system. However, between us, within a school, we probably have. I think of Facebook at this point and the files that are held within groups. I can guarantee that at least 2 or 3 times a week someone will say, how do I access the files? And somebody will give a beautiful detailed explanation of how to get to it using their laptop. And the person responds, I can't see that on my phone. It's a problem. We need to make sure that what the instructions we are giving to people are fit for all devices and are accessible on all devices. Now, most modern devices have the assistive technology actually built in, and most of the time it's actually free, so let's use it. From simple controls of making a screen dimmer or brighter, to using speech to text or text to speech. We've got programs like Office Lens that will take a photo of any text and then read it out loud, and some paid for programs. So Click at Home is currently being offered free for home use if the school has got a licence. It isn't usually, you usually have to pay for it, but it's being offered free at the moment if the school's got a licence. That's something certainly worth exploring. And on my screen you can see a list of the things we could do to support children using technology. It always amazes me how often individuals don't play about with their settings to enable the best visuals, and it irritates me about as much as the individual who opens a new window or programme and then proceeds to work in a tiny little screen without maximising it, or someone who presses the caps lock for one capital letter. I suppose it's up there with keyboard shortcuts or not knowing that a simple triple click highlights a whole sentence or paragraph, depending which operating system you're working in. They're just the kind of things that you really ought to know if you're going to use assistive technology. There are lots and lots of things that you can do. So screen readers, screen magnification, text readers, speech input software, alternative input. Special schools will know more about that than mainstream schools, but we've got single switch entry and head pointers and things. Audio descriptions on videos, captions on videos, voiceover on PowerPoints, changing the mouse and tracker settings so they go slower and they're less sensitive, programming shortcuts, so that's your Control V for paste, brightness and colour settings, inverting the colours, removing transparency, putting coloured overlays on your screen, using sticky keys, brilliant when you're working with younger children who can't actually move around the keyboard fast enough, predictive text, which is fatal for most of us, but and then spell and grammar checkers. So there are loads and loads of things that we could be doing at the moment to support our children who are working from home to access the things that we're actually providing them with, but also to give them some lifelong skills that they can bring back into school and help them with their learning. I hope that gave you some ideas on online learning, understanding our learners, what we can do to help them, and also something to go and play with around assistive technology. Try that triple click. Take care, guys.